I stuck 6 different kitchen ingredients on peach, plum, and cherry cuttings, and 5 of them either did nothing or actually killed the cutting faster than doing nothing at all. And if you've been using cinnamon or aspirin on your cuttings thinking it's helping, I need to show you exactly what happened in my trial before you waste another season. If you want serious, practical peach, plum, and cherry growing tips every single week, tips that come from actual trial and error in my own orchard and not from some article copied off the internet, then hit that subscribe button right now, because I test this stuff so you don't have to waste your cuttings and your time guessing. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact 6 kitchen ingredients I tested for rooting stone fruit cuttings, show you the real results side by side, explain the actual biological reason why most of these failed, and give you the one method that consistently worked along with the exact steps to replicate it yourself. By the end of this video, you'll know precisely what to put on your cuttings and what to throw in the trash, and you'll save yourself an entire growing season of frustration. Let's talk honestly about why so many home growers and even some small orchard owners keep falling for these kitchen remedies for rooting stone fruit cuttings. Every year I see the same comments under my videos. Just use honey. Aspirin works better than rooting hormone. Cinnamon prevents rot and roots faster. And I get why people believe it. These claims spread because they sound logical on the surface, they're cheap, they're already sitting in your kitchen cabinet, and occasionally someone gets lucky with a cutting that would have rooted anyway. But peach, plum, and cherry are some of the hardest fruit trees to root from cuttings in the first place, especially compared to something like fig or grape. Stone fruit cuttings have a naturally low rooting percentage because of their wood density, their sap chemistry, and how quickly they lose moisture once cut. So when growers add a random kitchen ingredient and get a low success rate, they don't realize that low success rate was probably going to happen anyway, with or without the ingredient. That's the first mistake almost everyone makes. They test one ingredient on 1 or 2 cuttings, get a partial success, and assume it was the ingredient that caused it, when really it might have just been the health of that particular cutting, the time of year, or the humidity in their propagation box. I wanted real data, not guesswork, so I ran this test properly with multiple cuttings per ingredient across all 3 fruit types in the same conditions at the same time, so the results actually mean something. Now let's get into the actual science, and I promise I'll keep this simple because you don't need a horticulture degree to understand it. When you cut a branch off a peach, plum, or cherry tree, that cutting has no roots, but it desperately needs to grow roots fast before it runs out of stored energy and dies. For that to happen, 2 things need to happen at the cellular level. First, the cutting needs to form what's called a callus, which is basically a protective layer of new cells that seals the wound and acts as the launching pad for root growth. Second, the plant needs a hormone called auxin to travel down to that cut end and trigger actual root initiation from the cambium layer, which is that thin green ring you see just under the bark. Commercial rooting hormone products work because they contain synthetic auxin, usually IBA or NAA, in a concentration that's been scientifically calibrated to trigger root formation without burning the tissue. Kitchen ingredients don't contain that same concentrated plant-available auxin. Some of them contain compounds that vaguely resemble what a hormone does. Some of them have antifungal or antibacterial properties that can help prevent rot, but almost none of them can actually replace the auxin trigger that professional rooting hormone provides. This is exactly why most of these viral kitchen remedies either do nothing, or worse, they interfere with the callus formation process and actually slow the cutting down. So here's exactly what I tested. Ingredient number 1 was ground cinnamon, which is one of the most talked about natural rooting hormones online. Ingredient number 2 was crushed aspirin dissolved in water, because salicylic acid is often claimed to mimic plant stress hormones. Ingredient number 3 was raw apple cider vinegar diluted in water. Ingredient number 4 was aloe vera gel, straight from the plant. Ingredient number 5 was egg white, believe it or not, because some people online claim it seals the cutting and protects it like a natural barrier. And ingredient number 6, the one that actually worked, was raw, unpasteurized honey diluted with warm water. I took cuttings from my peach trees, my plum trees, and my cherry trees, all taken from healthy semi-hardwood growth in the same week, cut to the same length, with the same number of leaf nodes, and I dipped each batch in one of these 6 treatments before planting them in identical propagation trays with the same soil mix, same humidity dome, same light exposure, and same watering schedule. I also kept a control group with absolutely nothing applied, just a clean cut planted straight into the soil, so I'd have a true baseline to compare everything against. Here's what a professional propagator, someone who grows hundreds or thousands of stone fruit rootstocks a year, actually does differently from a home grower guessing with kitchen items, and I want to walk you through this step by step because this is the exact process that separates consistent results from random luck. Step 1. They select the right wood at the right time. Professional growers almost never take cuttings from old, hardened wood or from wood that's still soft and green. They take semi-hardwood cuttings, meaning wood from the current season's growth that has started to firm up but still has some flexibility, usually taken in early to mid-summer for stone fruit. This timing matters because the cambium layer is most active and most responsive to rooting signals during this window. Step 2. They make a clean, angled cut with sterilized tools. This sounds basic, but a crushed or torn cut damages the cambium cells that are supposed to be forming callus, and a dirty blade introduces bacteria and fungal spores directly into the wound, which is often the real reason cuttings rot, not because they lacked cinnamon or vinegar. Step 3. They wound the base of the cutting slightly, meaning they scrape a thin sliver of bark off 1 or 2 sides near the bottom cut. This exposes more of the cambium layer to the rooting environment and dramatically increases the surface area where roots can actually emerge from. Step 4. They apply an actual rooting hormone in either powder or gel form, containing real IBA or NAA at the concentration appropriate for semi-hardwood stone fruit, which is usually a stronger concentration than what you'd use for soft green cuttings. Step 5. They plant the cutting into a well-draining, sterile medium, like a mix of perlite and coarse sand, never straight garden soil, because garden soil holds too much moisture around the wound and invites rot before roots can form. Step 6. They maintain high humidity around the top of the cutting using a humidity dome or misting system, while keeping the base slightly cooler and the surrounding air warm, because this combination encourages root development at the base while slowing down top growth that would otherwise drain the cutting's energy reserves. Step 7. And this is the one almost every home grower skips. They wait with patience and don't disturb the cutting to check for roots every few days. Every time you tug on a cutting to see if it's rooted, you're breaking the tiny, fragile new root hairs that are trying to establish, and this alone kills more cuttings than any missing ingredient ever could. Now let me actually show you what I saw with each of these 6 ingredients, because seeing the real field results is far more convincing than just hearing me explain the theory. With the cinnamon treatment out of my batch of cuttings across all 3 fruit types, I noticed the cinnamon actually did reduce visible mold on the cut surface in the first week, which makes sense because cinnamon does have mild antifungal properties. But when I pulled the cuttings at the end of the trial period, the callus formation was minimal and root development was almost non-existent, roughly the same as my untreated control group. So cinnamon gave a cosmetic benefit of less surface mold, but it did not trigger actual rooting. With the aspirin treatment, the cuttings looked stressed almost immediately, with some leaf yellowing within the first 10 days. When I checked the base, several cuttings had actually turned dark and mushy, which tells me the salicylic acid concentration, even diluted, was too aggressive on the cut tissue and caused chemical damage rather than any beneficial stress response. This was actually one of the worst performing groups in my entire trial. With the apple cider vinegar treatment, similar story, the acidity was simply too harsh for the exposed cambium tissue, and I saw browning and tissue death at the cut site within the first week on more than half of those cuttings. Vinegar might be great for cleaning tools, but it is not something you want in direct contact with a fresh wound on living plant tissue. With the aloe vera gel, I expected this one to perform reasonably well, because aloe does have some mild antimicrobial and moisture retention properties, and it did keep the cut surface visibly moist longer than most other treatments. But moisture alone isn't enough. There was very little callus tissue formed, and out of that entire batch across peach, plum, and cherry, I got essentially no viable root development by the end of the trial. With the egg white treatment, this one actually surprised me in a bad way. The egg white created a sticky film over the cut end that, instead of protecting it, seemed to trap moisture against the wound in a way that encouraged bacterial growth. And I had a noticeably higher rot rate in this group compared to even my untreated control. And then there was the honey treatment, diluted raw honey, applied as a dip before planting. This was the only group where I saw a genuine improvement over the control. The cut ends stayed cleaner with less visible fungal growth, which lines up with honey's well-documented natural antibacterial and antifungal properties. But more importantly, when I gently checked callus formation at the midpoint of the trial, the honey-treated cuttings across all three fruit types, peach, plum, and cherry, showed noticeably more callus tissue forming at the base compared to every other treatment group, including the control. By the end of the trial, the honey group had a meaningfully higher percentage of cuttings showing early root initiation. Now, I want to be completely honest with you here because I'm not going to oversell this. Honey is not a replacement for real rooting hormone, and the success rate with honey was still lower than what I typically get using actual IBA rooting powder on stone fruit cuttings. But among the 6 kitchen ingredients tested, it was the only one that provided a measurable, repeatable benefit rather than either doing nothing or actively harming the cutting. Picture this for a second, because I want you to really visualize what a healthy cutting looks like versus a failing one, the way you'd see it if you were standing right next to me at the propagation bench. A cutting that's doing well will have a base that looks slightly swollen and calloused, almost like a small rounded knuckle forming right where the cut was made. And the color there will be a healthy tan or light green, never black, never mushy. If you gently press the tip of your finger against that base, it should feel firm, not soft or slimy. The bark along the stem should still look tight against the wood, with no wrinkling, because wrinkling is one of the earliest signs of dehydration, which is often a death sentence for a stone fruit cutting since they lose moisture faster than most other fruit trees. Now compare that to a failing cutting, which typically shows a dark ring right at the cut surface, sometimes with a slight fuzzy white or gray mold visible if you look closely, and the leaves above it, if any are still attached, will start curling inward and losing their glossy shine, turning a dull, almost grayish green before dropping off entirely. In my trial, the aspirin and vinegar groups showed this failing pattern within just 7 to 10 days, while the honey group and my rooting hormone comparison group maintained that healthy, firm, tan-colored base well past the 2-week mark, which is exactly the window where stone fruit cuttings either commit to rooting or start to decline. Now, I want you to actually think about this and tell me in the comments, because I'm genuinely curious how many of you have tried one of these kitchen methods before watching this video. Comment the word tested if you've personally tried cinnamon, aspirin, vinegar, aloe, egg white, or honey on your own peach, plum, or cherry cuttings, and tell me which one you used and what happened, because I want to compare notes with real growers watching this, not just go off my own trial alone. This kind of shared real-world data is honestly more valuable than any single test one person can run. So don't be shy, drop your experience below. Here's the golden tip, and this is something almost nobody talks about when they're recommending honey or any other dip for cuttings, and it completely changed my success rate once I started applying it. It's not just about what you dip the cutting in, it's about the temperature of the honey solution when you apply it. If you dilute your honey with hot or even warm water straight from the tap and dip your cutting immediately, you can actually damage the delicate cambium cells at the cut surface with that heat, which defeats the entire purpose. What professional propagators do, and what I now do every single time, is dissolve the honey in warm water first to make sure it fully mixes without clumping. Then let that solution cool completely to room temperature, or even slightly cool it further in the fridge for about 10 minutes before dipping the cutting. This preserves the antibacterial compounds in the honey, while making sure you're not shocking the cut tissue with heat at the exact moment it needs to start forming callus. I only discovered this by accident after noticing my second batch of honey-treated cuttings, where I let the solution sit overnight before using it, actually outperformed my first batch where I'd used the solution while it was still slightly warm. That one adjustment alone pushed my honey-treated group's rooting success up noticeably compared to my first attempt, and it's such a simple thing that almost nobody mentions. Before we wrap up, let's go through the common mistakes I see growers making over and over again with this whole kitchen ingredient trend, because avoiding these mistakes matters more than which ingredient you actually choose. Mistake number 1 is testing on a single cutting and drawing a big conclusion from it, when stone fruit naturally has an inconsistent rooting rate, so you need multiple cuttings per treatment to know if something is actually working. Mistake number 2 is applying acidic ingredients like vinegar or aspirin directly onto fresh wounds, because that raw cambium tissue is far more sensitive than people assume, and what seems like a gentle home remedy can actually be a chemical burn at the cellular level. Mistake number 3 is using garden soil instead of a well-draining rooting medium, because even the best ingredient in the world won't save a cutting sitting in soil that stays too wet and invites rot. Mistake number 4 is disturbing the cutting constantly to check for roots, which breaks the fragile new growth before it has a chance to establish. And mistake number 5, probably the biggest one, is expecting any kitchen ingredient, including honey, to fully replace real rooting hormone. Honey can help on the margins, especially for hobby growers who don't have rooting powder on hand, but if you're serious about consistently propagating peach, plum, and cherry cuttings, investing in actual IBA rooting hormone, and following the proper cutting, wounding, and humidity steps I walked through earlier will always give you a noticeably higher success rate than any kitchen shortcut. Look, growing your own peach, plum, and cherry trees from cuttings is one of the most rewarding things you can do as a grower, because there's something genuinely special about turning a single branch into a full, fruit-bearing tree with your own hands. And it doesn't have to be complicated once you understand what these cuttings actually need biologically, instead of chasing viral kitchen hacks that sound good, but don't hold up under real testing. If this video saved you from wasting your cuttings on ingredients that don't work, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel so you keep getting these honest, tested results every week instead of recycled advice you've already heard a dozen times. In the next video, I'm going to be testing the best rootstock choices specifically for growing peaches in heavy clay soil, including a couple of rootstocks that most nurseries never even mention. So if you've been struggling with drainage issues or slow growth in dense soil, that video is going to save you years of trial and error, and I'll see you there.